There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, you gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. How are you today? Apologies, seriously. I mean, it's right that I offer a trigger warning occasionally for some of those dad jokes, but this one is truly terrible, isn't it? I got an email explaining how to read maps backwards. It was spam. Reluctantly, I offer it that, and I don't know. Should I out the person who sent that to me this morning? Ouch is all I have to say to you about that. Talking of ouch, thank you so much for the, you still got the slight dental lisp. I don't know how many of you have noticed that. It might be more obvious on the podcast, mightn't it? All right, mate. Hope your teeth get better soon. That's a Cockney greeting there. And they were pondering the idea of hen's teeth. It is actually, strictly speaking, the Barcelos cockerel, but I get your gist there. Thank you very much, Square Eyes, for that. Really appreciate that, going to the effort of knocking up a meme for me, all about my recent dental and other pains. And it has, I think it's taught me a little bit. I think one of the aspects of man flu, do you have this, fellow man flu sufferers? When you're groaning and lying around the place, moaning and groaning and feeling achy and shaky, do you think to yourself, I'll be so much more compassionate to people who are poorly, and I'll appreciate my health so much more when I feel better again? And you really mean it at the time, don't you? But life moves on. I'm hoping I can maintain that to some degree, because it's been quite the challenge. But it's also, I have to say, reiterate the fact that it's been quite the shamanic journey as well. It's actually been quite a creative time. And if you go down, not down to the woods today, but if you go to the Good Morning Portugal website, or if you were on the show last night, Hello America, This is Portugal, you will have been aware of my my new setup. The new GMP VIP level of membership includes something which I think is very exciting. It's quite the change culturally for Good Morning Portugal and myself. We have a new concierge service that we're sharing with you, and that's selling well this morning. I mean, people really got it when I explained it last night, and I will be releasing a video today. But you'll see this is what we do now. I've simplified pretty much, I've addressed everything we do and simplified it, because it was getting quite complicated, and that doesn't really help anybody. And you'll see there that you'll still get, the whole world is able to ask me anything, especially today, ask anything about Portugal Wednesday. But every morning I'm here for 90 minutes with free fun, facts and friendship, folks. It's fun, facts and friendship on the Good Morning Portugal show every morning, every weekday morning anyway. And the America-focused show for the Portugal Curious on a Tuesday night. You get access to amazing people and information, all free of charge, pretty much. I mean, you can, of course, chuck us a few coppers into the tip jar and into the hat if you want to support the show. But that's all free. That's free, and will continue to be so. The level that was €9 a month, and still is, at least for the time being, is where people could support the show and be a GMP VIP. And now that's all very well and good, but I'm not sure it offered them any extraordinary value. So I've done something about that. You, my friends, who are subscribing to that level, and these are the people who want to accelerate their plans in some way and have urgent questions that need answering, and places to be, cathedrals to build in Portugal, and professionals to meet this is the level for you. €9 until we sign up. It was 25 people last night. It's 21 this morning. That's been going well overnight. Thank you very much to everybody who's seen the sense in this and has signed up. So all you GMP VIPs, you'll still get all your fun perks and features of being involved with the radio show in the morning. And you can sit backstage. You can have it streamed to your own channel. And you'll get preferential treatment as you do in the mornings. But you'll also have a new number as of today where you'll be able to ask me anything, anytime, really. I'll also work out some Signal and Telegram groups as well where you can ask your questions. And there'll be a web-based way of doing that too. And email, an exclusive email. And I'll get back to you with responses within 24 hours. That's not too bad, is it, for €9 a month? It will be rising to 19 after we've signed up, 21 more people. And I've got, when it does go up to €19, I've got an even better feature, which I'm working on as well. We'll be launching a virtual village. Yes, more about that to come. And those of you who've signed up already on the €9 GMP VIP level will get access to that. The new Good Morning Portugal virtual village. It's going to be quite the network, that to come. But for the meantime, and there's nothing mean about it, for the generous time, you can email me, text me, web-based app me on particular exclusive numbers and inlets. I was going to call them funnels. That's a totally different thing in this digital marketing thing. And I'm fed up with all this digital marketing stuff. I'm trying to make it just normal people-to-people stuff, not treating people as numbers. But I want to work with a limited number of people now, because what I've realized, and maybe part of the reason why I got sick and exhausted, was I'm trying to do too much for too many people all over the world at any time of the night or day answering questions about Portugal. So that's still going to happen in these 90 minutes at the breakfast show every weekday morning. But outside of that, if you want a piece of me, you're going to have to become part of the GMP VIP community. And you'll see another aspect of that is the Portugal Club as well, which is an even finer and more supportive level. Who doesn't like a more supportive level first thing in the morning? That's the Portugal Club, which meets on a Tuesday from 10 o'clock in the evening, a suitable time for people living in the United States. And those just going to bed who've already arrived here in Portugal. Check that out on the homepage there and snap it up while you can. Oh, we've got to go straight to Turkey now. Philomena is here and ready in the classroom. Would you like to wave to? Yes, she's waving. Let's give them a nice big round of applause. This is amazing. This is incredible. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Wow. How do I say good morning, Turkey? How do I say it? Oh, Philomena, help me. Come to the camera and tell us how.
It's günaydın in Turkish.
Günaydın, Turkey. Oh, look at you all lovely people. How's it going?
So, how are you?
Oh, I am. You know, we claim to be the biggest phone-in Europe. We can claim to be the biggest phone-in, can't we, in Europe and Asia, where the continents meet this morning. And thank you so much for making this happen, Philomena. Isn't your professor Philomena amazing? Can we have a nice cheer for her, please, everybody there?
Yes.
All right, don't worry then. Amazing, Philomena. Tell us what's going on. Where are we in Turkey?
I would like to introduce you, my friend Shirin. Hello, Carl.
Good morning. Hola, bon dia from Portugal. How are you?
And do you remember the greetings that we had at the beginning of the month? Do you remember that he said greetings from Turkey?
I do remember.
So, yeah.
Few days ago, last week, maybe.
Yes, yeah, you were here on the show, weren't you? It was
yes, and you said regards to to Turkey when you see my name.
Yes.
On your broadcasting.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the doctor, aren't you?
Can you hear us?
It is.
It's so good to see you this morning. Oh, I think we've frozen up there, but isn't that incredible? Look at that.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Carl. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you again. It froze up for a moment there, Philomena, but it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Pete sends his love as well.
So we are sending all regards ambassador to you to Portugal.
Oh, how wonderful! How
Internet
wonderful!
connection.
Yeah.
No, you're good. Oh, we can hear you. We can hear you. And we are sending messages of love to you as well, Turkey, from us here. Incredible. Isn't that fantastic?
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
We are having some problems with internet connection.
No, it's
I don't
good.
know. Are we
No.
breaking up? Probably.
It froze for a moment. It's all fine now. It's absolutely fine. Go ahead. Tell us what you're doing, Philomena.
Well, Shirin can also speak a little bit.
Okay. And we are now here more than 35 teachers, and it's a training course for teachers, practical English for teachers course. And Philomena is the trainer. And we are very happy to talk to you because they are having some courses about practical English, and they are very excited. And it's a pleasure to attend your program.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours to have you here connected like this. It's amazing. Isn't Philomena incredible? She is with us once a month teaching us Portuguese. And then suddenly she pops up in Turkey with a room full of lovely people talking about live from Turkey first thing in the morning. Incredible. So what have you got planned now? What's going to happen? It's a learning situation.
A few of the participants here, they can tell you a little bit about why they are studying English, and maybe something about Turkey as well, and about Uşak. Where is Uşak in Turkey? They can maybe speak about.
Wonderful.
Can you come forward, please?
Look, Professor is putting people on the spot.
Yeah.
You are. Thank you so much for being so giving and brave here in this situation, letting yourself in for this with a good morning.
Yes. Come here, please. Come here. You can introduce yourself.
Olá, bom dia. Olá, bom dia. How are you? Tudo bem?
Please, good morning in Portuguese. Okay.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Bom dia. Turkey, how are you? And who are you? Can we be introduced to you?
My name is Emel. Surname is Akgün. I'm a teacher in the Turkey, and I want to learn about your Portugal culture. You say that about your culture?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. Well, I wasn't expecting this, but I do have Exhibit A ready for you, which is our pastel de nata. So teaching you about Portuguese culture is slightly strange here because I'm an Englishman teaching you about, I mean, Philomena should really be doing this, but thank you for permitting me on this occasion, Philomena.
Since I am teaching English, so you can teach about Portugal.
Okay, there you go. Café. And a pastel de nata for you, with all our love from Portugal for you in Turkey. There you go. That is a classic Portuguese breakfast right there.
Yes, it is.
Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much.
Have you ever visited Turkey?
I haven't. I know some of our friends here in our community have. And when I said to them, we today or tomorrow, this was a couple of days ago, we've got a real treat lined up for you. We will be going where Asia and Europe meet. Somebody mentioned Istanbul. There are people in our community definitely that love Turkey, and I would love to come to Turkey one day. I think my next guest on the show, the Doc, has probably been to Turkey.
3 things that come to mind when you say Turkish.
Oh, okay.
Do you know any words in Turkish?
I don't know any word. Well, I don't know that I know any words. I probably do. I don't know them consciously. And when you grow up in England, one of the things you know of Turkey is Turkish delight, which is a sweet.
Probably yes, Carl.
Probably.
With the rose-flavored jelly-like sweet, which is when we're children in England. It's kind of like the first thing we we learn about Turkey. We learn also that we learn of Constantinople when we're growing up as children. Certainly, as an English child, I learned Constantinople, the ancient name of, I believe, of Istanbul. And how vast, I think, how huge your country is. That is something that we know. And of course, more recently, the terrible earthquake and difficulty you've had there. So we send our love on that basis as well to you.
Terrible traffic. Thanks a lot. And I don't know any about that.
So do you have any questions that she can answer about Turkey?
I'm asking food as well, kebabs.
Yes.
Yes. That will be another question. What else do we try when it comes to Turkish food?
Tarhana, Uşak soup is the name is Tarhana.
Tarhana.
And
okay.
Tarhana.
Tarhana.
We had it yesterday. We had it yesterday.
Kilim and rugs, maybe we can.
Carpet is the Uşak kilim.
Of course, yes, of course, yes. You have carpets as well. I'm going to bring on the screen. I've got my own doctor here, who I suspect has been to Turkey as well. Hey, Doc.
Hi.
Have you been to Turkey?
Actually, I haven't.
We must go.
I've long wanted to go. I want to go to the old site of Troy, to the other historical places in Turkey, and there were so many empires in ancient Turkey. The Hittites, of course. And so much fantastic cradle of culture and civilization in Turkey, which actually I think is not taught enough in English schools.
Yes, spot on. I think we have a very poor grasp and understanding of Turkish culture, and as we move from the so-called West to the so-called East. And what have we got here? We have some tea, I think, some mint tea.
Yes.
Yes,
tea.
Turkey tea. Morning to you with a Turkish tea. Wow. What we have mint, tea leaves and mint. What else might be in there this morning?
What else? What else do you have? They left me alone now. I don't know.
Okay. Well, this is amazing. Antonio F. Let's say a few hellos from some of our community members to you over there in Uşak in Turkey. How cool is this? Says T Duck. Put your greetings for Turkey in the chat this morning, please, folks. Great surprise, says Antonio F. Matti likes the doner kebab. I don't know if that's a Turkish specialty or not. Is that right?
Hello.
Oh, hello. Who's this now joining us?
I'm another participant in this course.
English teacher. She's an English teacher.
Good morning.
I'm telling you, according
If anyone answers,
I just came for 12 years, and I just came here for job shopping, a kind of job shopping, and I just want to say hello to you.
Oh, hi. It's so nice to meet you. Muito prazer in Portuguese. Pleasure to meet you. And in French as well. I'll chuck in a bonus. Enchanté. Great to meet you this morning.
In Turkish, nice to meet you. How do you say that in Turkish?
We can say memnun oldum in Turkish. Nice to meet you means memnun oldum.
Memnun. Memnun.
Glad to meet you. Memnun oldum.
How wonderful. How wonderful. This is fantastic this morning.
It's hard to say, I know.
Turkish sweets, dessert, baklava, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's a dessert. Do you know baklava?
Well, I've tried it. Yeah, really, really sweet, right?
Really sweet.
Super sweet. And Turkish coffee. James knows about Turkish coffee. He's a fan.
Turkish is great, but Filomena says I don't like coffee.
Yeah.
It's a bit
but I do like tea, right? I do like tea.
Yes, it looks beautiful, that cup of tea.
It is very beautiful.
Beautifully
Yeah.
presented as well.
It's a
And
precious glass for tea. We just use this for tea.
This kind of glass, I'm going to try to show it closer to the camera. This kind of glass.
careful.
So this kind of glass is the typical glass. The design is just this kind of glass for tea, and with a saucer here, a little saucer, and a cup of tea. I hope I won't have a shower of tea. But
No, I hope you won't have a shower of tea. We don't need that first thing.
We just drink tea with it. We say in Turkish ince belt, thin belt, maybe. because of this shape, thin belt.
Oh, of course. Yes, I got it. There's a shape to aspire to. Amazing. We also have a question about Turkish raki. Some people know about this. Is that
Yours. It's the same as yours.
right? Okay. And
and there is something another sentences. Yes, Turkish is really nice.
yes, it is really nice.
Every time. How often somebody asks? How often? Yes, we quite often drink tea at home, at office. If you have a chance, you just drink tea.
yes.
When
You like.
Excellent.
when
Brilliant.
we are in the street and we see people drinking tea all the time, and we can see the tea sellers with the trays, because they go in the street with a small tray with lots of tea, and so it's quite common to have this tea every day at any time.
Yes, but when someone comes to our house or office, we just firstly say, please take tea, and even don't ask.
Oh, we have another freeze there, unfortunately.
If you want to drink tea, you just say, tea, please.
Hi, Doc. How are you?
Tea, please. I'll take some tea. Let's unmute the doc so you can respond to that, Doc.
Sorry. Hi. Good to see you, Philomena, and your friend in Turkey. Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
It's a bit difficult, I know. My name is Miesar. It's really difficult to pronounce it, I know.
Mirsa.
Mirsa.
Miesar, that's right. You really say very well. And even Turkish people can't say my name correctly.
Oh, you've done well. Extra thanks for us this morning. Philomena.
People are asking here, who is Doc? And it actually today our lesson is about jobs. So nothing better than having a doctor with us, right?
Okay, so well, I had a great job as a doctor, as a family doctor in the UK, and also a job as a coroner, as like a kind of judge. So I have a wide experience of employment.
And where do you live now, Doc?
I live in the beautiful central Portugal, on the Silver Coast, in a small town with a castle and fantastic people, beautiful environment.
Yeah, and the Turkish people are also fantastic.
I believe you. I although I haven't been to Turkey, I've met many Turkish people, and yes, they've always been very warm, lovely people.
Yeah. When are you bringing some of the lovely Turkish people to Portugal, Philomena?
Yes, I intend to, but maybe you can speak about that a little bit. You can come forward here.
Yeah. Okay. Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
When are we taking some of these people to Portugal?
Yeah.
We wish in the very closer time. I don't know, but before spring ends, maybe, I don't know.
He's the boss, so he knows. He's the boss.
Well, when you come, me and the doc and other people from our community will come and meet you in Miranda de Corvo. Is that okay?
We'll do a meetup. Yeah.
That'll be so wonderful.
Now you are invited to go to Portugal.
That's
So
super.
do you see my eyes that the euros, euro icons?
He has
Yeah.
coins
Do
there.
you see the euro icons in my eyes?
Well,
So everybody
Philomena,
is- yes.
thank you.
This,
Phil-
this
Sorry.
costs something for me.
You've organized this, haven't you? So thank you so
Yeah.
much for making this possible.
I've been in Portugal 2 times. It's really a great experience for me. And I delivered a training in Braga, so which is close to Coimbra.
Beautiful.
To Lisbon.
Okay,
So,
well,
but I haven't been in Coimbra yet.
Not yet.
But we wish to come there. And why not? Let's meet there. Meanwhile, there and
Yeah, Coimbra is a beautiful city. It's quite close to me here, so yeah, we'll meet you there. Be great.
well, look at this. Simon's here saying merhaba. Ya How about that? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Türkiye'nin selam.
Yeah, and Tabita, she lives in Miranda do Corvo as I do. Hello, Tabita.
Hola.
And also from Coach Turner, we have our own coach here. Another job you might look at today. He's an athletics coach. He and his wife are just heading out for a coffee, and the family that run the shop are Turkish. How about that? This is in Hertfordshire in the UK. We go so often that we're part of the family. There's that Turkish hospitality again. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Philomena, for organizing this.
Thank you, Doc, as well.
Bye, Philomena. Bye, everybody.
That has swollen my heart. Love to you from Portugal, from me and the Doc this morning. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Oh, my goodness, Doc.
Fantastic.
How do we improve on that this morning? You've got a lot.
We'll have a go.
You do. Nice camera angle that is being referred to by Lurker.
It's horrible, but it's just, I'm in my relaxing chair, and I don't have anywhere to prop up the camera in a better position. So yeah, that's just the way it is. You get to see my super bot belly.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And we're more about comfort than speed, aren't we?
Yeah.
So absolutely. Go to Canada as well. So we've got our friends coming from Turkey, which is fantastic. Looks like we're going to be going to Canada soon as well. It's all coming together, isn't it? Loving the plan.
Yeah.
This can go in your book. I think Pete wants you to write a book. Doc is what we call an absolutely crazy coroner, doctor, and adventurer. Do any of your students? Oh, sorry, I missed this earlier, Pete. Do any of your students fancy a stay somewhere spectacular in return for a bit of physical exertion? I think you've got to be careful making offers like that. I'm kind of glad I didn't suggest that. How very dare you, sir? I have been asked that in my time, believe it or not. I suspect you have as well, Doc.
I'm pleading the fifth on that one.
So how are you, my friend? Good to see you here.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, was I on last month? I can't remember.
You were.
Yeah, I was. Was it before? It was before I went to the UK, I think.
It was a little bit. I was a little bit concerned because I had the property developer, Bobby O'Reilly, and the self-proclaimed left-wing savior of Portugal, the Doc. I was thinking,
yes.
this,
and we were agreeing on the rubbish that was the my habitations, the plan for housing in Portugal by the so-called socialist government. Yeah.
Oh, nice blow! Nice early blow.
How long did that take? 5 minutes.
But it has got a terrible kicking, isn't it? I mean, the president, he only gave it a kicking, he booted it into touch, I think, in the last couple of years. So you're not impressed, but it went really well. You and Bobby getting along beautifully, and thinking about it, no reason why you shouldn't really, apart from those silly labels and prejudices and opinions that we carry with us before we even open our mouth. So it was fantastic. Yeah, you were here, and we had a fantastic conversation. about all of that, and some amazing ideas actually came up as you both set about sorting out the housing crisis here in Portugal from your respective angles. So what else have you been up to since I've last seen you? I think you've become a school representative as well. A little bit of a
well, actually, I was so it's a long story, but we'll delve into this a little bit more in a minute. But due to a crisis at Alicia's school, Leona's daughter's school, I was one of the activists who helped set up a parents' committee for to talk, among other things, to negotiate with, we hoped, or at least to talk to the owner of the school, who is conspicuous by his absence, but this is the cruelty of democracy. So, having been very active in setting up the committee and calling for a representative from the parents of each year group, our year group was the only one that had more than one volunteer. So I got trounced in the election by a Portuguese parent, 12 votes to 7, which was reasonably respectable for me, given that most of the parents are Portuguese, and I thought 7 votes was actually pretty good. And the good thing is that it means that I can now return to the floor of the virtual meeting and represent only myself and my views, and not worry about having to represent everyone else's as well.
Very good. Beautifully dealt with, the cruelty of democracy there, Doc. So you took it on the chin, but there's still an ongoing situation. Now, we can put this within the context of international schools in Portugal. So maybe we could dwell on that for a moment, because it is an interesting question for people moving to Portugal. They want to know about the international schools.
Yeah.
Before we get into the specifics and how we can help you with your particular plight in that one, what was your process when coming to Portugal, and what made you choose an international school in the first place, and why that one?
Well, so before Leona and I and Alicia moved out here, I had a base in Coimbra, which I used to come backwards and forwards to from the UK, and that was great. But when we decided fairly rapidly in 2020 that we needed to come out here in order to beat the Brexit guillotine, and to therefore preserve our rights as citizens of Europe, we went looking for a school, and the only school that was really available in the region was CLIC in Marinha Grande, or that we could find anyway. And I did a fair amount of searching and finding schools that still had their registrations open, bearing in mind this was in the middle of COVID. So we found CLIC. And why did we choose an international school? Well, Alicia was 14. We thought this was not the right time for her to have to start learning in a foreign language. I think if you're coming from a non-Portuguese speaking country to Portugal and you have children who are more than 11 or 12, then I think this is a big concern, because learning to learn in a new language is difficult. If your child's younger than that, then I think the best thing to do is put them in the local very good state schools generally, but the Portuguese language support for non-Portuguese speaking students is patchy at best, I understand. So the idea therefore is that if your child's 11 or 12 or under, they'll cope with total immersion, and by the time it gets to be really important, they'll be able to learn in Portuguese. But this was not the case with Alicia. So we were looking for international English medium schools. CLIC had a good reputation online generally, and indeed its educational history has been very good. So we enrolled Alicia in CLIC, but then earlier this year, various things came to light, which I'll go into in a minute. But that's the way I'm talking. You know, that's how we ended up looking at an international school.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. A little input from Pete here. Can I just put forward a big shout out for our local schools in the countryside, which are excellent. So many of my friends' kids are so happy and have been given extra tuition and settled in really well.
That's great.
I don't think Doc in any way meant to leave anybody out of this. It's definitely horses for courses, isn't it? And you know, if education is going to be good, it's going to be good for the individual involved in the process, and that's that basis upon which you made your selection there for your daughter, right?
All I said was that, you know, Portuguese support is patchy. I think it's probably very good in some places. I think it's probably appalling in some places.
Yeah.
I think it's probably mediocre in many places, and you know, that's why you have to. If it wasn't the middle of lockdown, we might have had the opportunity to explore that rather more. But it was so difficult.
And you have to make the right choice for your own children, don't you? Ultimately, which
absolutely,
it looks like you did until you have had some challenges.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to be throwing too many nasturtiums around the place, but I certainly feel free to speak of your own experience in this and how people might help in this situation as well, if that's appropriate.
Well, okay, so late part of January, I think, just before I was going back to the UK, or maybe it was the late part of February. I'm losing it a bit, but late part of February, I think. We got an email which was from what purported to be a new international school, and they had a website, and the website was up, and then it was down, and then it was up again. And they were inviting us to a presentation at a local hotel about their offering, which was due to go live this September. So that was a Saturday morning. I was in the process of driving back from Birmingham, sunny Birmingham, to rainy Portugal, on that Saturday morning. So I didn't get to that meeting, and Leona had planned to go but wasn't able to at the time. And on the Monday morning, fresh in from a 48-hour mad dash from Birmingham to Portugal, I don't know how I did that, I was plunged into this online discussion about what people had seen and what had been divulged in that meeting. So I'll tell you the facts as related to me.
Yeah.
It seems that CLIC has been in existence for 22 years. It was it is in its original building, which is now owned by the Diocese of Leiria and Fatima. The school used to be run by a company, which 7 years ago handed it over, the business, not the building, obviously, but their purported, I say purported advisory, lease of the building and the business to this current owner 7 years ago. And it now transpires that actually the diocese didn't own the building until a couple of years ago. It was owned by a shadowy third party connected to the church. Who knows what that is? Maybe the extant Knights Templars or something, I don't know. But anyway, the ownership was certainly transferred to the diocese a couple of years ago. But the only agreement for the school to occupy the building is a single paragraph which says, updated 7 years ago or more, which says we will execute a formal legal lease agreement in the near future. Now, we all know Portugal in the near future can mean a little more than in the near future, but 7 years is really taking the piss.
Pushing it.
Anyway, so they still don't have a formal lease. The group setting up this new school who had emailed us, and goodness knows how they got our email addresses. Don't mention the word data protection. The group that are setting that school up are actually a group of parents who are a family, second generation, successful construction business. And this is important because the building that CLIC is now in is very old, very dated, needs considerable amount of renovation, is probably wouldn't pass a health and safety inspection in the UK. Apparently has had a recent health and safety inspection, but the report has not been made public more than 18 months now. And so the fact that this group of parents are a successful construction company is important because they plan to gut that building and redo it completely, and in the meantime put the kids in temporary accommodation on site. Now it appears that a couple of years ago they approached the current owner of the school and offered to purchase it, and apparently the agreement was virtually ready for signature. And there are two stories. The owner says he refused to sign because they weren't agreeing to take all the teachers, and this putative new owner says they refused to sign because the current owner kept ramping up the price at the last minute. So the agreement didn't happen, and the diocese basically fell out with the current owner and served him an eviction notice for last July. It's been in court ever since. And there are 3 or 4 legal actions taking place between the diocese and the current owner. And everybody agrees that the current owner cannot occupy that building beyond May next year. The diocese say they're going to evict him in July this year. The current owner says that's not possible or legal. Anyhow, so the result is that there's a standoff, a Mexican standoff, if you like. And
such an international feel to the show this morning, isn't it? Turkey, now Mexico.
There's big concern. Okay, so the current owner wants everyone to sign up again for this September. But we don't know that the current owner is actually going to have premises to operate the school from. The new owners are going to open sign-ups from April. They say they have a plan B, but they won't say what it is because of, they don't want to divulge their hand. And there are parents, this is appalling, there are parents from the US and possibly elsewhere who've already paid sign-up fees and are paying tuition fees for tuition which they are not receiving. And the current owner, and may never receive from the current owner justifies this on the basis that he has a waiting list and this is the only way he's going to let them secure a place for their children. So the diocese as well, apart from being negligent along with the current owner in not getting a new lease done earlier than 7 years, apparently also promised to reimburse the current owner's expenses on some remedial works that he has done, allegedly amounting to 300,000 euros, but they have not done that. So this is an object lesson in business, not just in Portugal. Don't trust anything unless it's in writing, and in particular, do not trust the church. There we are. So there are still machinations going on behind the scenes, and not so much behind the scenes. And I'll keep you posted. It hit the press, the local press last week, in the Regional de Leiria, which I forwarded you as soon as it came out.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah. And Martha's just joined us from Nairobi, Kenya. This is amazing this morning. Thank you, everybody all over the world watching the Good Morning Portugal this morning and hearing of this situation in Leiria that is affecting. I mean, basically, the awful thing about this, what we're hearing from you, Doc, is this is the behavior of what it would appear to be sort of money obsessed or power obsessed institutions and individuals again. And what's at stake is the education of children. Now, if that isn't enough to bring you to your senses and just sort it out, what is, I wonder?
So I mean, the church has at least 600 years of being an educator and being a landlord. You'd think they'd have had it right by now. If the current owner stays in possession of the building until May next year, then 1 month before really important exams, children are not going to know where they're going to be taking those exams. Why you would be fighting tooth and nail to hold on to a building for an extra 9 months or 10 months is beyond me. The guy says he's going to move his education operation to Leiria because he's interested in the market in Leiria, which is an expanding, thriving town. So, you know, I'm sorry, you know, I don't want Portuguese parents to think that I'm, you know, not worried about Portuguese parents. I'm worried about all the children, but in particular for children who can't just transfer into Portuguese schools, who need, you know, are there because they need an English medium education. It's really, really worrying for kids in year 11 and year 9.
Okay, Peter with an education background himself. Blimey, Portuguese sellers ramping up the price and protracted legal disputes. Sounds like an all too familiar story. That's sad, isn't it? An all too familiar story. Never mind about the kids' education. We've got money and power to deal with in the middle of this. How terrible for the parents and kids. And great question, Pete. How do you retain staff who don't know if they have a job?
Yeah, well, you know, we've been trying to talk to the teachers, and they're understandably, you know, trying to keep their powder dry until they've reached a joint decision as to what to do.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, what their decision is the most important, because both potential operators have said they'll be prepared to run at a loss, i.e. they don't need all the children from day one. But if you haven't got the teachers, you cannot run a school.
You ain't got a school.
And you know, the new outfit may well be able to recruit teachers, but who's going to join an outfit which has been exposed in the local press as being rather more than negligent in the way they run their business, and who you know is going to move lock, stock and barrel within a year anyway. Yeah, it's just a nightmare.
So when we talked about it briefly yesterday, I said it's a really contemporary problem, isn't it? Full of posturing and posing and people not taking responsibility. The primary motivations seem to be about money and power and reputation and, you know, hiding blame and so on. It's just so tedious. And presumably all you parents want to do is have your kids educated.
So my advice to those who are looking at coming to this region or anywhere in Portugal.
Thank you. Yeah.
So first of all, wherever you're coming, do your due diligence. We thought we had, and we couldn't have found out this. You know, even the Portuguese parents didn't know this until earlier this year. But do your due diligence. There is a company. I have no link with it. It was in the Portugal Resident or Portugal News yesterday. It's called Tendoria, and they apparently advise parents who are moving to Portugal looking for schools.
Oh, right, interesting.
Yeah. If you're coming to Leiria, if you're looking at CLIC, know that this situation will be resolved by the latest by September 24. So if CLIC is still running, then it's likely to be okay. I think the new school, which is going to be called Leiria International School, although it's going to be based in Marina Grande, I think that will be good, and we'll probably be going with them. And although we've only got 1 year, and I understand there's another Cambridge International School in Leiria, but I can't recall the name. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. No worries. That's really helpful, Doc. Thank you. And that's what we're all about, helping people building the future. We've called today's show and we have a particular angle on education, as you've seen. Well, we started off with that in Turkey this morning, and there you go. There's Tendoria. Sounds like a curry house. That's a tandoria. But Tendoria, find the right school in Portugal. I didn't know this existed. We'll get them on one morning to talk about what they do. That's a lovely picture. That looks like quite a nice education. Didn't have that at my school when I was growing up.
Well, I think I have to confess that it's not dissimilar to my surroundings at my very nice posh school in Somerset. But there we are.
Is it true that it was so posh, Doc, that actually other people rode the horses for you? You didn't even have to get on the horse.
Not quite, but almost.
Building the future, education until around the past mark. And we got a lot of catching up to do this morning because of our lovely trip to Turkey. Daniel will be joining us. Daniel Farhani of the CRAD Studio. I think you might be interested in this, Doc, because I think you might have an interest in a building in Portugal and renovating and so on. Taking on an architect when building in Portugal. Daniel will be here to answer questions about that. William's in. Bon dia, Doc and Carl. Nice to see a bit of sunshine again. Very reflecting off our faces, William? And great I hope to see you in person soon. Private schools come in a wide variety of shapes and forms. Oh, yes. Always better to try and get an established one if you can. Under COVID, it was virtually impossible for you. Don't forget the local scoop as well. We had a similar experience with the school our kids attended. Fortunately, kids are very adaptive, but it was a great shame. It's true. And I think sometimes the unscrupulous do rely on the fact that kids are very versatile and can adapt to changing situations quite quickly. But they the less of that, the better. And really, of course, for children. I went to a Montessori school, the best. Now, not many people speak so fondly, do they, of their schooling? Tabitha enjoyed a bit of Montessori schooling there. Anything you want to say? Anything we can help with, Doc, on this? Just to close.
Very briefly, there is the school in Leiria is Brave Generation Academy, BGA. That's the other school, the owners of Spanish, and it is a Cambridge school, so it's 12 plus only. So they offer IGCSEs and either A levels or AS levels.
And there's one of those in Caldas de Rainha.
Oh, and my kids, my two. I'm trying to think who went to the Montessori school. So my first two children went to a fantastic Montessori nursery. Yeah, so I totally agree.
Yeah, I do like a bit of Steiner myself as well. I do like a whole food education. But like you said at the beginning, whatever suits the individual who is at the center of that learning experience. Check it out. I think most of these systems are available in Portugal. If you look,
Matty.
What's going on with Matty then? He's had his offer accepted, isn't he? Big news for me yesterday. My offer for the property has been accepted by the owners. So you may well want to talk to Daniel this morning. He's joined us and is limbering up. We'll be with us in about 5 minutes. Big news for me yesterday. My offer for the property has been accepted by the owners. First step in the process of purchasing the property has been passed. My lawyer is now creating the preliminary purchase contract. And after that has been signed by both parties, the real estate agent has to inform the neighbors and ask them if they want to buy it. Interesting. And quite a fair system that operates in Portugal. If you were those neighbors, you'd like that honor, wouldn't you? A bit scary, but I believe none of them will be willing to spend the agreed price for the property, as it would only be an extension of their rural land and not the place to build their dream. So hopefully that goes well for you, Matty. And if all goes well, he says, and without any hiccups, I would be the official owner as early as the end of May or start of June. Fingers crossed for you. Let's have a look at some of this morning that we missed earlier on. And I'm glad you're here to go through this with me. Doc, I'm sure you'll find it interesting. Deep thought. What? Have you read this already? When there's no trick to being a humorist, when you have the whole government working for you. I don't
Indeed.
think no one would argue with that, would they? Will Rogers was a Cherokee Indian cowboy comedian, humorist, social commentator, vaudeville performer, and actor. Basically, a show-off. He wasn't a doctor or a coroner. Portuguese saying, Maus beija homem que quisiera ver cortados. Hands kissed the man they wanted to see cut off. Many kissed the hand they wished to see cut off. Oh, that sounds a little bit... yeah, sounds a little bit more eerie, that, doesn't it? Ugununu then, Infant Dom Henrique of Portugal, Henry the Navigator, was a central figure in the Portuguese Age of Discoveries. Born in Porto in 1394, he was the third son of King John I and Philippa. Despite being known as the Navigator... Look, has anything changed?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Henry never went on any voyages himself. He was Henry the Organizer, wasn't he? He did, however, Henry the Financier. And he must have thought to himself, as he paced up and down the royal court, what do I want to be known as throughout history? Henry the Money or Henry the Navigator? I think I'll go with Navigator, even though I wasn't on any of the trips. In 1420, he was made Administrator General of the Order of Christ. That's not a bad title, is it? And under his expeditions, the Portuguese discovered and colonized the island of Madeira, the Azores, and several of the Cape Verde Islands. Henry died in Sagres, the place, not the liquid, in 1460. Okay, thank you for that. We'll come back to these dad jokes. I think Daniel and the doc might like a dad joke to finish the show at around 10 this morning after we've been talking about architecture. Going back then to before the show even started, Bom dia, Campos, Feliz Cata Todos, como va? James was asking you. And look at this, Coach Turner. Bom dia, Todos, always a good day when Doc is in out. You need a mug.
And the love is just overwhelming.
Isn't it just? All over the world. And I liked your point about Turkey. We don't understand Turkey well enough, do we? And you may have heard my wailing and gnashing about this. Maybe that's why my teeth hurt. I've been gnashing them so much recently. Turkey, very interesting. Let me start with Europe. I realized growing up with Europe and the propaganda of the EU and the European Commission, what is synonymous for me with Europe is a bloody blue flag with yellow stars on it. Not the continental concept or the landmass or the incredible culture that is Europe. And especially when you go to Turkey and it blends and merges with Asia. Haven't we got a rather sanitized view of Europe thanks to the bloody European Union?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the what's the name of the culture? The original Celtic culture in Europe. The name of which escapes me. And then you go into Turkey and you find the recent, or fairly recent finding of Göbekli Tepe, which is these fantastic stone structures which predate really predate settlements. I mean, they were when we were still supposedly hunter-gatherers. And these huge Neolithic monuments, which have been buried, purposely buried, but fantastic archaeology in Turkey, and marking major changes in the path of humanity from hunter-gatherer to settled farmers.
Well said, mate. And that's why I was trying to do this European phone-in, so we could broaden our view and talk to people, as well as my Portugal Immigrant Network. I hope you'll be part of that. Again, we have a very narrow view, don't we? Even if I dare say it and admit it on the Good Morning Portugal show, we're not very representative of all the immigrant groups and nationalities coming into Portugal, and there's a lot of work we can do there. So I think both areas need a little bit of attention and work, and I suspect you'll be part of my conscience on that, the doc, and maybe on a board or two, a committee maybe, as we explore that. God Squad tip of the day then, before we go to Daniel to talk about architecture here in Portugal. I've been reading some research recently about the benefits of walking and how much it is optimal. The conclusion is that somewhere around 8,000 steps a day provides all that pacing up and down does pay off. It would appear, provides the maximum benefit.
I'm lucky if I do 80, I'm afraid.
And that's just to the drinks cabinet.
That's
good to know, says T-Duck. My phone says I've been averaging 8,500 steps a day in 2023. Good work, T-Duck. One other interesting snippet was that they didn't find any extra health benefit from walking quickly, which on the surface seems strange, but when you think about it, it makes sense. Yes, it does, and we thoroughly recommend that in this community, especially without warning. With the people who are with you, just burst ahead, up the tempo, and see what happens. A fast walk takes less time. Yes, it's true. Whereas you're on your feet, you've got more time to worry if you do that. A fast walk takes less time, whereas you're on your feet for longer when ambling slowly. I would, however, still recommend a fartlek style. Thankfully, that has been mentioned this week because it never ceases to amaze both of us. You see, Doc is trying not to laugh. When he
I'd never heard of it.
Serious? You've not heard of fartlek?
No.
Okay, I will send you some illustrations.
So there's an electrified fart. That's the question.
No, it's not.
It's a new form of renewable energy.
Look, we've got a new guest, Doc. This isn't helping. We're trying to be professional, respectable, and grown up here. And then you say, I can't believe it. Once a week, he's laughing so much, his camera's dropped off. Can you compose yourself and be professional? I'm going to read it again. All right, seriously this time. I would, however, still recommend a fartlek style. Good. Walk once a week with short maximum. No, he's lost it. Before I got to the end of the sentence, he's lost it. It's time to move on anyway, and welcome onto the screen our guest today. DANIYAL FARHANI. Good morning to you, Daniel.
Good morning, everyone. I've been laughing with the fart jokes as well.
Oh,
hi, Daniel.
I mean, he's a doctor. You'd think he'd be able to compose himself a bit professional, wouldn't you? But no, sadly not.
It doesn't matter your profession, fart jokes work.
Absolutely, all the time.
A man after our own hearts.
The question is, Daniel, can you incorporate fartlek as a renewable form of energy in your project?
I have a feeling they've been doing that with ethanol with the cows. So
yeah, exactly.
Investigation, yeah.
Nice try, Doc. Nice try. Daniel, so good of you to be with us this morning and to immediately get into the spirit of things. I think you get a sense of how we roll here this morning. It was lovely to meet you a long time ago at a meetup, and I was enthralled by your by our conversation about architecture. We had a great meeting, our first meeting, didn't we, in San Martino de Porto? And it's been too long, you joining us on the screen here to talk about architecture in Portugal and the wonderful work you do with CRAD Studio. Please tell us about that. Where are you in Portugal, and how was it setting up an architectural practice here?
Where do I start?
Yeah.
So we moved here, and the first project we did in Portugal was in 2012. And then, so my wife is Portuguese. She's an architect. And we were based in London. So we had a company in London for many years. And in 2000, just before Brexit, we decided to move the whole operation to Portugal. Also, we have a little kid, and we thought, London is too difficult of a life with a small child. So, and I also wanted him to absorb the culture, the Portuguese culture, given his mother is Portuguese. So we sort of planned to move to Portugal in 2018. So during 2012 to 2018, we did numerous projects, mainly linked to my wife because she's been an architect here. She was an architect in Spain, and then so there were still links which helped sort of our architectural network before we arrived. And in 2020, we officially moved the whole operation. So we still have a little address in London where we are finalizing the projects there. But currently, life has been good. Besides having more sunshine, we have quite a good number of projects, mainly in central Portugal, close to Tomar, Bo, in close to the coast, in Bombahal and Leiria. So, and we are based in Torsleden.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, so that's about 30 minutes from Lisbon, but it also gives us opportunity to drive. So yesterday I drove to Avaux, which is in the center of the country, close to the whole big land where there's a lot of landscape and beautiful mountains, and the views from the site were amazing.
Cool, excellent stuff. So we do want to ask you and challenge the myths, I suppose. People imagine, don't they, that taking on an architect is going to be expensive, and they may be a little bit, I don't know, lacking in confidence in engaging with an architect. Because for you, I guess you're building things all the time, but for most people who might come to you as a small, as a one-off consultation, it's the first time they've done it, so that might be a little bit daunting, and hopefully we can do something to help people with their confidence. Before we get started asking those questions, Sarah's with us, Darren's also in, we had Francis from South Africa joining us. Walking quickly is good for the heart, says Darren. You could have made that rhyme with something. I should activate my phone's app for steps counting, says Andrew. So people enjoying that idea of walking quickly. Douglas also in from a chilly Alentejo this morning, so he's on the move. Expect new videos. And finally on walking, lots of new free guided walks on the Gumper map. Excellent news. Thank you very much. Back to you, Daniel, then, on architecture. It is the dream of many people to come to Portugal and renovate or build something new and enjoy one of those lovely landscapes that you talk about. Why would they, and how easy is it to engage with an architect here, and why should they do so?
Well, there's many stages that you could talk to an architect. The earliest stage would be before buying a land, and then if you already have a land purchased, then the later stages would be to build a house. But we always recommend talking to an architect before buying a land, because there's a lot of trick, especially in Portugal, with buying a land, because there might be a lot of hidden layers. For example, 6 months ago, we dealt with a land that had a main water pipe running underneath the land, and you cannot construct anything on top of it. And the only way to find that out was to contact Smash and understand where the water pipes are running. The real estate agents didn't say anything. Obviously, they want to sell the land. And so the land was almost useless. And you wouldn't know that until you talk to the council to understand how tall you can build, what size footprint you can build, what is underneath the land, etc. So it's always useful to talk to an architect before buying the land.
Yeah. So in many ways, you're performing the role of a structural surveyor at that point, and considering the plot itself. So when one of the myths might be that it will be expensive to consult with an architect, actually you might be saving yourself a whole lot of money.
So that, I mean, I can give you the price for that, because we have a standard fee of 300 to do investigation of the land.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so it's not expensive to figure out the details about the land at all.
No,
and you'll find out. You'll contact the council. That's the delay. So the council usually takes 2 weeks to get back to us.
Really?
Yeah. But they tend to answer architects faster, because we work with them regularly.
Yes. Now there's another advantage then to engaging with you. Yeah. And I've got to say, you're an incredible advantage, aren't you, to have Portuguese and English-speaking staff in your practice, and that I'm guessing you would have given you an edge within the expat community. Was that your line of thinking when you started?
No, absolutely, yeah. Well, myself and Neda worked a lot in London, so a lot of the processes we operate on are based on the UK standards. And so sometimes we get surprised of how little information is required here to build the building. But then again, we are adamant to keep our standard to an international level. So we produce drawings and specifications based on what we have already learned. But yeah, I'm a registered architect. Vera is a registered architect. We have other colleagues that are registered architects. So it's in Portugal. So it's very useful to just to be able to speak 2 languages and connect to the community. And there are tons of questions in the expat community that are left unanswered or ambiguous, or people have been misinformed by real estate agents, or so it's actually it's very useful for people to get a basic understanding of an architect is just another human. You should just call them up and talk to them. They're not, they're not anything special. They shouldn't charge you for a phone conversation. If they provide a service, they should tell you how much it is right up front before any invoices, and it should be fair. So if they're doing 5 hours work, they shouldn't charge you 5,000. It's standard stuff.
Excellent. Let's have a quick look at your website as well. I think Doc might have a question or two for you. Doc, is that right?
Not really. I mean, so I've been involved in property in the UK, but since my stroke, so I used to do a lot of work myself, with renovation and stuff. But since my stroke, obviously, I can't do that. But I maintain an interest, very much an interest, and I grew up on building sites because I grew up in Milton Keynes in the 70s. So.
Yeah, interestingly you say that. I also grew up on building sites. My father was a friend of a contractor. So when I was in high school, I used to help with builders, electricians, with plumbers. So for 4 or 5 years in my high school, I understood, this is how buildings get done. And to date, even, I get surprised when I tell, for example, a steel worker, be careful when you weld a 4mm steel to a 10mm steel. It will warp the steel, the heat.
Yeah.
And he will get surprised, I know this. Or I talk to the plumber about he needs a certain thing. So it helped a lot being around the building industry right from the early age.
That is a fantastic entry there, Daniel. Wonderful. So your company, you can be employed as a surveyor in the first instance to check land out for €300, and I think that would bring so much peace of mind.
That's a brilliant price. I mean, even to get cut through the normal delays with a camera, it's probably worth buying that time. €300.
Exactly, and then you'll know what you're dealing with, won't you?
Yeah, also depends on the councils. Some councils are really slow, some are faster. So, the ones we've worked with, and we tend to have the London mentality. If we don't get an answer in a week, Leiria picks up the phone and calls them, and then it calls them again in 3 days. So they get annoyed a little bit, like, let's answer these guys fast. So
yeah.
Okay. Before we move on from that early and preliminary stage of how to engage with an architect and what you can expect in those first stages with that inspection there, we'll go to the big picture stuff, which is always exciting. Bon dia, everyone, from Tony time. Greetings from the Minho. Always present a PIP on any land, pedido de informação prévia, on any land or ruin you intend to build on. If you think it's expensive to hire a professional to get the job done, wait till you hire an amateur or even do it on your own. So there you go, another validation for using professionals, including architects this morning. Now, was it Goethe who said architecture is frozen music, I think? And the beauty, the notes, I suppose, in many ways of architecture are light, aren't they? And I love the look of your concept here, Daniel. This is what you describe as light-filled residential housing. It's possible to build a dream like this in Portugal with your help, is it?
Yeah, but this was in Torres, actually, just literally.
Still?
No. I got to the point where we were almost building it, but then the owner decided to sell the land. So we went up to almost planning application, and we fine-tuned that because the client had specific needs. For example, wanted to go through the kitchen without passing through the living room because when she had guests, she didn't want to be seen bringing food in. So there were a lot of fine-tuning to that. And the massing also, we played with it a lot. And the views were good, given we're in the center of Torres. But we didn't get to build it, unfortunately. Again, I mean, I have to highlight that architecture has different layers. So at the beginning, you can do a lot of concept drawings and then build only 3 or 4. The process of architecture usually takes 2 or 3 years, depending on the size. If you do bigger stuff, 5 years. So an architect would be very lucky to do 20 projects all his life.
Wow. And a labor of love in each and every one over that time scale.
Absolutely. And what we aim to do is to select projects that we kind of hopefully go right to the end, because there is a lot of unlike just producing fast images at the beginning and getting planning application, we like to inject the atmosphere and, as you mentioned, the light, the qualities that you like to live around right from the beginning. And we like to see that getting built. And we like to talk about the details of how the steel should be connected to the timber, what is the primary structure, how you like your house to breathe in the summer and winter, etc. So we don't like to just create images at the beginning, get it rendered, visualized, and then that's it. We like to go right to the end.
Not just the showy stuff then, but the execution. And I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it, with this? Because most people have seen the British TV program, I think, Grand Designs or something similar. You know, after the break, watch how this entire project runs out of money and how everyone becomes completely stressed. Is it always like that, Daniel, or is that your job to make sure it shouldn't be like that?
Exactly. It's my job to make sure it's not like that. So a lot of people come to us saying, "Can I build a house with 200,000?" And the immediate answer is absolutely, because you're going to design it from scratch. So we can tailor what the structure is going to be, what the finishes are going to be, how big the areas are going to be, what is the foundation. So because we're designing it based on your budget, you can meet your targets. So the stress is dealt with right from the beginning.
Amazing.
And because we do specifications, I mean, it depends who you're working with, but because we do a thorough specifications, so we select the taps, we select the toiletry, we select the finishes, we select the paint, we select all these little details. So the job of the builder is extremely easy. He just needs to order them, doesn't need to select. And it also takes out the mishap, the problem of builder doing cheap stuff. Because everything is written. We've talked to you about the products, you've selected them with us, we've tested them. So the final product, the final paint, the final quality of the building is all predetermined. So when the construction starts, everything is just should roll forward. Of course, there are moments where you have, excavation surprises or structural surprises, but that nobody can deal with.
No, of course, and you'll have contingency in place based on your experience. That's wonderful. I want to ask you about how you've coped with or enjoyed the sort of local vernacular and being in Portugal itself, because of every country is a backdrop and a palette, isn't it? But before that, it's very interesting. You say about, you make it easy for the builders, because most professionals have a way of working, don't they? And I think builders have been put in this position by clients to do it quick and cheap. Now, those are not very good driving forces for anything in life, are they? But we do expect that of builders quite often. Whereas if you have an architectural principle at work, which is about, detail, quality, and probably bringing people back to their original guiding principles rather than compromise, how wonderful that you're involved in a project on that basis.
Absolutely. So going back to what you just said, the main question at the beginning shouldn't be, can I afford a house? Should be, what kind of quality do I want in my future house? Right? That's the driving question for you. Shouldn't be, of course the budget is important, but if you have more or less some budget that you can build with, you shouldn't worry too much about how much it's going to cost. If you have the professional team in place, you should ask the questions of, what kind of space do I want to live in for the next 20, 30 years of my life?
Yeah. And I love the idea. I mean, you put it very simply. Someone says, can I build a house for 200K? You can say yes to that answer, to that question, and then come up with a specification to suit that, and have that as, that's one of the immutable factors, I suppose, budget, isn't it? So you can work with that rather than avoiding it. And you're doing so much for me this morning in challenging my ideas of, and I think other people's ideas of what it means to consult with an architect. So thank you for being here and doing that. Let's look at some of these materials in Portugal then, and the palette that you've walked into in this wonderful country. People change the plan halfway through. Better planning is cheaper overall. I think we can agree with that, can't we? And you can build on budget if you don't change the plans. And I guess that's part of your job as well. Probably one of the not so attractive parts of the job. Steel, for example, has more than doubled in price since we bought it 18 months ago, as has sandwich board. All the materials have gone up, haven't they? And I like granite. I like my granite ruin with 160 square meters footprint waiting for me to get it back to the old glory of almost 100 years ago, first registered in 1937. And there was something else about style. Oh yeah, Andrew, I'm a bit tired of the modern featureless box, but I do like brutalist styles. Okay, let's deal with all of that then. And the azulejo, the yellows, the whites, the blues of Portugal. How has that affected you since you've been here, and how does your practice work around that, Daniel?
Well, we love it, I have to say. The Portugal, given it's a very small country, has a very strong design drive. So if you look at the Pritzker Prize winners, the architects that win the equivalent to Nobel Peace Prize, Portugal has 2, I think, Pritzker Prize winners for such a small country. It's remarkable. Yeah. So they're actually very good designers. They're very good architects. And the main reason for that is because the majority of the history of architecture in Portugal is to focus on the character of the space and not the form, not the external envelope, not the funky form, but how you feel in the building. Yeah. And even when we were in the UK, that was our motto. So our driver is the quality of the space, the light, the materiality, and the warm feeling you get from your house. That has been our driver. And the colors, of course, if you like them, they help a lot with that. And if you look at our website, we have a collection page where we exhibit our the things we love, and there we have a lot of examples of color. So, for example, the first video is a house in Mexico by Barragan, a very, very famous architect, and it just deals with that, with color and light. And this is the kind of architecture we like. So we're at home turfs here with colors and the way the Portuguese built. But I like to think that we add extra quality, given that our history, our way of living in different parts of the world. So to give a background, I was born in Iran. I grew up in New Zealand. And I got my PhD in the UK, and I've worked a lot in the UK. My wife, which is also director here, worked in Portugal, worked in Spain, and also in the UK. So and the other directors also, we've always worked in Germany, in Australia. We bring the collective ideas together in one place. And I like to think that adds to the touch of the Portuguese quality.
Oh, well said. I think it does. What a thing of beauty. Your website is an art gallery in its own right. It's absolutely a wonderful visit. And people can do that by going to cradstudio.com. So it's fair to say then you're loving the vernacular, the culture that you're in here. And what do you? I mean, one of the problems certainly, I think Andrew makes a good point, doesn't he, about the modern featureless boxes. We do have sort of two offers, don't we? Generally speaking, if you're looking for property in Portugal, it's the old villa, which I prefer, but it has its problems. And the new featureless box designs, and presumably there a lot of those are around because people can fix the costs and they're relatively easy to build. How would a consumer challenge that? Because generally speaking, you get what you're given, don't you? Most people aren't employing architects and telling you how they want to live, and you design something for them. Most people live in a house where they never met the architect, and it isn't necessarily designed for their needs. They just compromise. Will that ever change, do you think, in our culture?
It really depends on what the market does. I mean, it's very the economy of building a building drives these factors, and there is a bit of a stereotype. As you mentioned, a lot of people think they can't afford an architect, so they go directly to a builder, and the builder will build what he has always built. So either the traditional or the white box, nothing in between. So it's important to understand that architects are not expensive, given the return on your property, the return on the construction cost, the return on the quality of the life at the end.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to have an architect and challenge your architect. Say, I don't want the white box or the traditional. I want something unique that is for me. That's why I'm here with you, right? I want a custom made, something for my size, some worktop at the kitchen, not a standard one, something for me that is comfortable for me. So we have for example, we have a client that is in Sintra. They're from United States, and they're a bit bigger people, and they're tall. So they want their worktop as 1 meter high, not the standard 900, because they like to cook. And those little details, customizations, make your life really easy. So it's like buying a shoe as a correct fit, or a shoe one size too big. You don't notice the little subtleties of working at a benchtop that is too high, or the bathroom that is more accessible, or the morning light that comes from the top while you're drinking your coffee. But all those little things affect the quality of life tremendously.
And they say so much about modern culture as well, don't they? That we don't necessarily stand for principles. We get what we're given, and so much of course is, like you say, it's about the market, it's about cost, and it's about efficiency, and so many of those decisions are foisted upon us. But we can be back, as you're very wonderfully saying this morning, we can get back in the driving seat of our own living spaces, and perhaps that could be extended to education, medicine, health, all sorts of areas of life, because it is a dark time, isn't it? I mean, this whole conversation about architecture and how much influence you can actually have, because no one's saying you can't do any of these things. We're just not in the habit of doing it, are we? We just have accepted a kind of Fordist culture where things are made for us, and we think we're lucky because we can choose between 10 different designs that never had us in mind, but we've got a choice. So hopefully this is part of a change in how people create a new culture, really, that moves away from the market and more towards personal taste and diversity, because diversity is part of it as well, isn't it? If everyone, I mean, as an architect, you would know this, wouldn't you? And did you say you're a professor of architecture?
No, I teach in New Zealand. Right. I teach a little bit at the Bartlett in New Zealand, in London. UCL, but I'm not a full-time professor. I hope to teach part-time at Lisbon. But I have a PhD in design. So.
Oh, PhD. But there's no question you're a design and architecture philosopher. Exactly. And your understanding of what happened to us as humans when we started living in all these boxes that were designed for us. I mean, when people lived in what would be seen as quite primitive buildings, they were at least much more their own design, weren't they? Because they had to be.
At least they were natural.
Yes,
right? They were surrounded with stone and timber. And
isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing what's possible that we've discovered with you? Darren says, example of materials choice. I had a bathroom done and was so glad I chose my own metal tile trims. It made such a difference over the plastic ones the installer would have used. Yeah, it's the race to the bottom often at the production end. So that's why my UK washing machine doesn't fit under the Porto's kitchen unit. There's a nice little prosaic example of standardization, or not, as the case may be. I would be very worried about the state of the banks at the moment. Massive dividends have been given to shareholders, and just 2 banks collapsing would exhaust all the protection. Well, there's a cheerful thought to end on. Thank you very much for that. Daniel, it's been fantastic talking to you. I hope you'll come back, and this will be something of a residency, because there's so much beauty to share about Portugal from an architectural point of view. It's been really lovely listening to you this morning.
Thank you.
And Antonio, okay, these guys are just chatting with them among themselves here. Nothing wrong with that. Feel free, go ahead. Think about becoming a GMP VIP, especially with the new offer. I'll be posting a video about that, but you can sign up for that on the website. Here is Daniel's web address. It's an art gallery in its own right at cradstudio.com. Final thoughts from you then, our expert on architecture, and we'll come and do the same with you, the Doc, in just a moment, before those dad jokes.
Well, we've just touched the surface, I think. We haven't started talking about, what kind of things, what kind of questions you can get answered at the early stage when you're buying a land, what kind of questions you can get answered by the architect when you're designing a house. So we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot of knowledge to be spread out, and I'll be happy to come back and do this multiple times to just answer the question. We can go through the development process of design, construction, etc.
Maybe a little webinar, maybe a little special webinar on how to engage and work with an architect here in Portugal. Daniel, thank you so much. Lovely to see you again. Maybe see you at the meetup. We've got a lovely day. I've got the blinds down here, but I can see light coming through the shutters.
Yeah.
So we will be at the meetup a little bit later in San Martino de Porto. If anyone wants to join us for that. Daniel, great pleasure to talk to you. Have a great day. Doc, over to you for your final words today. Good luck with your school project, mate.
Cheers. It's nice to see an architect. I've met a few architects, and actually my niece is embarking on that training, design and architecture. It's nice to see an architect who understands the importance of light and color right from the outset. It's not an afterthought. And you know, I've grown up because I grew up in Milton Keynes with lots and lots of boxes. You know, one design fits all. And we really need to get back to an architecture that looks at how families and communities, more importantly, I think, even work together in order to enrich and enhance our social life, because otherwise we end up so alienated from our own environment, and we need to stop that.
Well said. And quick shout out to our channel sponsors. CRAD Studio, the project that's being built at the moment, I think has quite a lot of that ethic that you speak about there. So well done, Bobby O'Reilly, on that at Dynasty Homes for thinking in that way. And I'm really excited to see ground being broken at CRAD Studio. We'll be back there and keeping you in touch with how that project is shaping up. Very thoughtful design there. Perhaps we can talk about that another time, Daniel, as well. I did promise dad jokes. Let's go about our way in a cheerful way today as we say goodbye. 3 minutes after 10. The Institute of Unfinished Research has concluded that 6 out of 10 people. They're not breaking us. Nearly. Oh, Doc just broke.
That was quite clever.
Daniel's keeping a straight face. You'll be using it later. We know that. A survey by Car and Driver magazine found that 95% of all electric cars, one for you, Pete, are still on the road. The remaining 5% made it home. Come on. Practical advice. If all the toilets in your house are occupied and you're waiting for one to be free, switch off the Wi-Fi. Very good. Yes, a very good selection. And let's continue that applause for our fine guests this morning. Great to see you, Doc.
Likewise.
With that comfy angle, lovely to see you. We felt very comfortable with you today. And Daniel, fantastic debut on the Good Morning Portugal.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Nice to meet you.
Have a great day in Torres Vedras, and a great day to everybody. Take care, everybody, and bye for now. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao, todos. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye. That video is never near enough when I need it. So, Doc, just freeze for a minute while I find the video. StreamYard, help me out here. And actually, apologies to people who have been struggling with the streaming. I think the viewer count was all out today. It's been freezing for people, so hopefully it'll be better tomorrow. It's definitely nothing to do with me not paying the bill, because we dealt with that last week. Ciao, ciao. Bye for now. Here's the end sequence now. Bye. Have a great day.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumper.